We're delighted to announce that tonight's show is brought to you by Fantasy Serie A. Head to fantasyseria.com and use an in-game budget to build your ultimate team of Italian football stars in one of the most popular fantasy football games online. You can take on friends, fellow Laziali or other Calcio fans from your country in a selection of leagues throughout the season.
Hello everybody, welcome to Lazio Lounge. Not the best Monday, I would say, for the season after what happened Sunday to Lazio. Lazio who got beaten by Spal 2-1. I'm here with my pal Alison McKenzie and we have a special guest, Jerry Mancini. Welcome guys. I know it's not the best day, but we have to talk about football even today.
Do we really? Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. Jerry, welcome to the show. Unfortunately, it's not the perfect day, I would say, but still it's really nice to talk with you.
Thank you for having me today. Glad to be on.
Good. Well, let's start with what happened in the second half of Spal-Lazio. Alistair, let's start with you. What's your idea? What happened to this team?
Well, if I knew the answer to that question, I think I'd have a job in Inzaghi's coaching staff by now. I think what we do know is that this obviously is nothing new. This team has an ability to completely switch off. The one thing that's really irritates me in the reaction to this game has been the fact that it's been referred to so often as a blackout. Inzaghi himself referred to it as a blackout. This wasn't a blackout. This wasn't the same thing as the Inter game, the Salzburg game, all the other ones where Lazio have lost their heads and thrown away a game in a short space of time. This was a case of a team not being properly mentally prepared after half-time, being too passive, being presumptuous about the result, lacking any sort of character and fight to actually react to either of the Spal goals. For me, this wasn't a question of a blackout. It was just a very poor performance from a team who didn't look like they wanted it enough.
I totally agree, and we have to talk about this blackout because blackout is like 10-15 minutes. This was a whole second half, and as you were saying, Lazio player didn't seem willing to fight in the second half. Jerry, do you have the same impression or do you think the problems were different?
I don't know if it's not prepared, but I feel after the first goal that went in, the substitutions, I wasn't happy first. So I don't know if Vavro should have came in or not. I know that Patrick was bad in the first half. I agree. But aside that, I would have liked to seen Bastos come in on the right side maybe, if he was available. I wasn't sure about the substitutes, but if Bastos is available, I would have gone with Bastos over Vavro for this game, personally me. And then I liked Savage came in. I thought Savage did a good job coming on, but I didn't like Correa as much. Like I thought Correa wasn't as strong as I would have hoped. I would have thought maybe I would have liked Yanni to come in for Lulic. I thought Lulic was very bad in the second half. He got burned a lot of times on the left side. Couldn't keep up with against the defense. Like he just wasn't. He didn't look good. He doesn't have the footstep like he used to. I think we've overplayed him in the past few seasons, and he's not the same winger that he used to be. Lazzari, Alberto, Immobile, they still look very strong in the second half, but I felt when Leva came out of the game, our midfield was too open. I thought he controlled the midfield in the first half really well. He was one player that was playing very hard throughout the game, and when he came out, I felt that the midfield wasn't as strong, moving the ball up. He was helping the defense as well. I think he was a big loss in the midfield there. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, one important point I think the substitution Inzaghi made. I believe the players have big responsibility in this match Lazio lost, but I thought the substitution this time in particular were definitely wrong. I thought Lulic was finished. After the 16th minute, I thought Lulic didn't have any more. And it's not a surprise. We saw it against Sampdoria. We saw it in the derby. Lulic is not getting younger. He's 34, if I'm not wrong. And he's still running a lot. And I thought he was done yesterday. So I would have made completely different changes. I wouldn't call out Caicedo. I thought he was playing fine. I wouldn't substitute Leva because I think he's one of the few leaders on the pitch. And I didn't see him tired. Honestly, I thought Correa's substitution didn't make sense because the problem was Lazio midfield was done. They couldn't run anymore. That's why I would have take off one between Parolo and Luis Alberto and put Berisha, that is speedy player, dynamic, could give a little bit of speed, of pace to this midfield that was done. And took off Lulic because he was not playing anymore and put Johnny, even because Spal was attacking. And with Johnny, they had to take care even of the defense because we know Johnny is very dangerous. So that would have changed the match. So I blame a lot the players because, as Jerry was saying, they didn't look like they wanted to win this match. But at the same time, I thought Simone Inzaghi made the wrong substitution. We're going to talk about Patrick later, I presume, but I thought taking off Caicedo and Leva and putting Correa wasn't the right decision. And Milinkovic Savic, of course, I didn't think that was the right move. Alistair, do you agree with me?
Yeah, well, a few things on that. I think one thing is that the fact that he immediately turned to Correa and Milinkovic once we were in trouble is a suggestion that is his first choice strongest team. So why wasn't he starting with that team in the first place? I don't think there was any particular reason to be doing much turnover for this match other than the fact that Felipe was injured. If he thinks Correa and Milinkovic are his strongest players, then they should be in the team. I don't think international break is a reason to take them out of the team after the performances so far this season. I was disappointed they didn't make a better effort, but like what Jerry was saying about being disappointed with Correa's performance, I don't think he does all too well in these kind of games where essentially Spal were very well organised. They were quite happy to let us take the ball, carry it into their half and try and find a way through. And, we've got the players to unlock those kind of defences if you've got Alberto in midfield and you've got Milinkovic coming on as well. But Correa, I think, is someone who needs a bit more space in which to operate. He didn't really influence this game as much as we would have hoped for. And yeah, that brings me on to the final point, which is to agree with you, Vittorio. I think that in these circumstances, it makes sense to bring on someone like Johnny, not only to take the pressure off a tiring Lulic, who yet again looked absolutely knackered by the end of the game, just as he had against Roma a couple of weeks ago, but also for the fact that Johnny can give you something different in an attacking sense. He can supply a much better quality of cross. If we're bringing Milinkovic off the bench, a fresh Milinkovic to attack that box, and you've got the quality of delivery from both flanks capable of coming in, then that makes a big difference. So it would have given us something different going forward, as well as relieving Lulic's tiring legs. I definitely agree with you as well, though, Jerry, about Lucas. I think he had a great game. He was kind of holding it together up until that point, and once again, the fact that he's come off and it's all fallen apart goes to show that this team is so dependent on the way that he anchors it and the way that he can kind of help the players in front of him flourish.
Yeah, one thing about Correa coming in. One thing about Correa, guys. I thought that Lazio struggled to put the ball in the box because no one in midfield had still the energy to do it. I don't know if you agree with me, Jerry. I thought putting in Correa with the midfield struggling didn't make sense. You first have to reinforce the midfield to play football, and then you can thinking about attacking.
I thought with Correa, he was accountable for the second goal that went the other way. He lost the ball. I think he lost the ball 3 times or 4 times, I noticed, in the end, in the Spal end. and then it went on the counterattack, and the midfield was spread out. There was no one in the midfield, and it created the counterattack, and they scored. But I agree that no one was giving him the ball from the midfield, and when he got the ball into the opposition, he did nothing with it. There was where one play on the far corner, he had the ball, he held it, and he just gave it away. I think he could have been stronger with his decision making. I think he rushed his plays. He never looked at the best choice to give the ball to. I think he was really ineffective when he came into the game, to be honest. I think he could have been stronger. Like you said, right? I think he was the wrong choice to bring on. I would have liked to seen Caicedo stay on. I thought he played he created chances in the first half too. He had the post he hit. And there was another chance where Ciro Immobile gave it to him. He should have scored as well. But he was being effective. He was using his strength. I think he should have stayed on. I thought Ciro had a good game. I would have kept both of them on. I would have changed up the midfield, like you said. I thought the midfield was slow. Every time we got the ball up, we gave Spal too much time to set up for our offense to even have a chance to even score. And if we allow them time, it doesn't help us. Against Sampdoria and Roma, we kept on going on the counterattack. We brought the ball up very quickly. We never gave the defense time to set up to actually have a chance against our offense, and which was beneficial to Lazio. But when we allow the defense to set in motion and basically have time to defend against us, you can tell that Lazio doesn't know. They have a hard time breaking down the defense.
Alza, you were talking also about the turnover because Inzaghi rotated a little bit the team. Now, we know that Ramos was injured, so he couldn't play, but Milinkovic-Savic and Correa didn't start. And we said it in the podcast, in the other episode, that Lazio, when they play with Milinkovic-Savic, Correa, Luis Alberto, Ciro Immobile all together, is a very dangerous team. And Inzaghi decided against Spal to rotate a little bit and don't play Milinkovic-Savic and Correa. Now I understand that they both play with the national team. Correa was coming back from Argentina and so on. But it's September. It's very early in the season. I cannot believe that Correa is tired after just one national match. Yeah, he was far away, but he's 23. Come on, let's be serious. Milinkovic-Savic played only one match in 2 weeks. Do I have to really believe that Milinkovic-Savic and Correa couldn't start the match? I mean, Ciro Immobile and Acerbi are older than them, and they started and they played in the national team. I understand the turnover. I think Lazio have to start doing turnover already, but I don't think those were the two right players who should have rest. We said all the time, this is the perfect match to start Johnny and Vavro. And again, Lulic started, and we saw the result.
Yeah, I don't think... I think Inzaghi's got a lot to answer for from this result. I think, in terms of the selection, Caicedo and Parolo, the two who came in for Milinkovic and Correa, themselves had pretty decent games. But it's not so much that as the fact that if you're on a good thing and your team's playing well, it is disruptive to then go and change 3 out of the 11 players in the lineup. So yeah, I don't think there was any reason to rotate for this game. I've already said when we've been talking earlier this season that I think if we're going to have a chance in the top four, we need to be putting our best team possible out every week in the Serie A games, regardless of the opposition. But that was the thing that infuriated me about Inzaghi's reaction to this match was, look, it's not enough for him to just say, oh, we're going to learn our lessons from this. After he decided to stay at the club in the summer, he was referring to this as being year zero, that we're basically starting from scratch. This project has been renewed, all this kind of stuff. Well, nothing's changed here, I'm afraid. And if he is going to sit there and say, we've learned our lessons, after watching that performance, when the day before he's been talking about how seriously they take the threat of Spal. We know we've had a bad result here last season. We know how difficult this game is. Well, if that's true, then why the hell do your team look like they don't care? Why are they out there jogging around, unable to respond to the first sign of adversity? That final goal, if you watch it again, Alberto and Lulic just jogging back. Yeah, they're tired, but everyone's in the same conditions. Like, if they had got back quicker and shown the urgency that was required to actually shut down that attack, you at least get a point out of that game. I mean, it's not entirely Inzaghi's fault, results like this, but it has to land on the coach. It has to be the coach's responsibility to find a way of sorting out this mentality issue with the team, because it is a mentality issue. We know this team's good enough to beat Spal. We know the players that he's picked on the pitch on this day are good enough, that they're fresh enough. Everything's in place. And he's had abundant opportunity to be able to get that message across to them, not only at half-time when the club are already leading, but when there's a water-cooling break with 15 minutes to go, he gets his whole team gathered around him once again. The score's still 1-1, can still win that match. I mean, this team just is so lacking in any sort of grit and determination in these moments. And that's the thing that frustrates me the most. Is I was working all weekend covering a lot of Serie A, and it made me think about the Inter-Udinese game. You know, Inter not particularly impressive. 1-0 up against Udinese, but they see that game out. You know, they don't need to necessarily blow them away, but they win 1-0. And I think that's the difference between an Antonio Conte team and a Simone Inzaghi team, is he is able to make sure that he transmits that energy and that desire to his players in a way that Inzaghi is really struggling to in these circumstances.
Another thing is, consider Candreva. Last year, Candreva was terrible. Now, Candreva is back as a player. And you have to give big credit to Antonio Conte. And going to Jerry, I feel that Inzaghi is struggling to give this mentality to the players, right? Luis Alberto is a great player, but do you see him fighting till the last minute of the match? No. Same thing with all the others. It looks like if the other team scores, Lazio players just give up. Is it me only seeing this? Or Jerry, did you have the same impression?
With Luis Alberto, I don't think he gave up. If you look throughout the whole game, he's the first player to run back, top the defense throughout the whole game. He's running hard, and in an extra time, I think even with the weather, I heard it was pretty hot in the game, and they were having breaks still, too, right? So I think in fairness, even the weather may have a little bit of an effect on the game. I think at the 92nd minute, you are tired in defense. But yes, I do agree that every time that the opposition scores, we'll be up 3-0, and if they score one goal, we still look like we lost. It's the end of the world that we lost the game, even though we're up 3-0. But really, we still have a 2-goal lead. So this was an issue last year, which I realized a lot, is that this team needs to be more composed when they give up a goal, and that the game still has another 30 minutes to go when it's 1-1, and that there's still a lot of time. You need to recompose. I think with Simone Inzaghi on the sideline always freaking out and always screaming, I don't think that helps either. I think he needs to be more calm when he's coaching the game, because his emotions could get the best of his team as well. So that may have an effect as well. But overall, I think in particular in this game, I think the second goal was, just to add on, I just think that, yes, Luis Alberto should have ran back, and yes, Correa should have ran back. And my question to you is now, when Radu is defending one-on-one on the right side, why does he give him so much space to allow him to get the pass into the middle? That's why I was more upset. I watched the game twice, once this morning and once last night. And basically, I don't understand why Stefan Radu is giving him the option to pass when he should step up, instead of having that to be able to be created in the first place. So in defense, yes, the midfield should be back. But also, if you're not defending, you're giving the guy has the ball, and you give him that much space to create that, and then it goes in, and then it's a lucky bounce, and then it goes right to, I believe, Ronic. I forgot who scored. Ronic, I believe. But and then it goes right to the back of the net. And Strakosha is vulnerable. So I think our defense has to be much stronger when that play happens. But yes, to answer your question, I do think that at times we do find that we lose confidence, and it's something that needs to be fixed. I think players like Lulic and Leva have been good with leadership, and you see before they score the first goal, before they take the corner kick again, you see Leva is pissed off because the defense is not in motion. They're not set properly, ready to go for the next corner kick, and they're not picking up their guys right. And he's all mad at his team, and he's trying to pick them up. And we need more guys like Leva who speaks up on the field and actually leads by example as well when he plays.
Yeah, I think the thing about Leva, we said it. He's probably one of the few leaders on the pitch. That's why I don't understand why Simone Inzaghi took him off. But other consideration about yesterday. Lazio absolutely dominated the first half and finished 1-0. Roma dominated the first half against Sassuolo and finished 4-0 the first half. This is a big difference. This makes a huge difference because Lazio match wasn't close. The Roma match was close. And this is what big team does, right? If they're playing much better than the other, they're able to close the match. Lazio have proved to be able to play a great football, but not be able of closing the match, Alistair. And I think this is a huge problem, especially for a team like Lazio that is trying to reach the Champions League.
Well, that has been a problem in the past. I don't think that's so much of an issue yesterday. Though you're talking about two completely different levels of dominance there. I mean, Roma were absolutely blew Sassuolo out of the water yesterday. Whereas Lazio in that first half, they had enough control of the game. It was pretty comfortable at half-time. Had restricted Spal to not an awful lot. Defended pretty well. Caicedo had hit the post, obviously won the penalty, but it's not like Lazio were carving them open at all. Spal were pretty defensively organised the whole way through. So in games like that, getting an early lead is the best case scenario, which is exactly what Lazio did. That was the perfect start to the game, and that obviously bred a lot of confidence. And that's the really unforgivable thing about a result like this, is that if you do take an early lead against a team that likes to sit in, that likes to pack its defence tightly, then you need to hold on to that. That is your route to victory right there. I mean, all you need to do is sit tight, manage the game, organise the game, dictate the tempo, and that's the thing that we're not so good at, I think, is that game management side of things. I think the leadership question is a really interesting one, though, because you look around this team and you think there's enough experience there that there should be enough leadership there. We've got in that lineup yesterday, there's Radu, there's Parolo, Lulic, Acerbi, Lucas Leiva, Immobile. There's plenty of voices on that pitch. But we've seen this time and time again. So is it enough? I mean, where's the character in this team? If those guys are supposed to be the leaders on this pitch and have the experience, then how is this happening time and time again? Where is the game management if those are supposed to be our leaders and they're incapable of finding a way of getting this team to keep its cool? It's a real frustration for me.
But I don't think that being an old player means being a leadership. Parolo has proved to not be a real leader. Lulic is someone that, till he has the strength, is fighting. But as we said, he was done at the end of the match, before the end of the match. And I don't believe that, growing older, this means that you become a leader. No, we have plenty of examples of players who never become leaders, never become, able to motivate a team. And I think to be a leader, you have to have a winning mentality. And I think Lucas Leiva have it thanks to Liverpool, because he won there. And if you take, for example, Parolo's story, he never won nothing before Lazio. Immobile, those type of players, Lulic, are maybe fighters in a certain way, but they are not leaders. I don't think they're sending the message. And the other thing is, Lulic was knackered, so even if he was a leader, he couldn't move. So I think you also have to do something on the pitch to prove to be the leader. And that's why I didn't understand why Leva came off, because he had still the energy to do it. Do you agree with me, Jerry?
Absolutely agree with you. But I think if there's one person who could be a leader on this team, it's Acerbi. And Acerbi is the one guy that if Leva is not on the field, I understand that Lulic has always been our captain on the field. He's the guy. But I think another armband possibly should be Acerbi. You saw yesterday how he went up to the defender's face and he told him, "Get up." He's like, "Get up." He's like, he was pissed off at him. And that's what we need. We need somebody who's not scared to back down and go into the player's face and say, "We're gonna go." That's it. He doesn't care what it takes to win. Acerbi is a winner, in my opinion. Yeah, he's never played for a high winning team, like you said, with like Ciro Immobile and Luis Alberto and these guys. But I think Acerbi has that extra incentive in him that he's the lion. He fought cancer twice. He battled in life, and he knows what it takes to be perseverance, like not to give up, always to keep fighting. And I think that lifestyle, that thing that he's learned in life, has allowed him to bring it to the game and transition it and show that mentality that you don't give up. You always keep going until the end of the game, no matter how many seconds is left.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Acerbi was the only one fighting after Spal scored, and you can see he was so angry because the other players didn't react. But probably wasn't enough for winning yesterday, or at least get 1 point. But yeah, going back to the question of Alistair, I think there are not enough leaders in this team, and that's why when the other team scores against Lazio, they give up, because except Leva and Acerbi, the players are not fighting till the end, and I think this is a big problem, especially if you need to reach the Champions League, and now with the calendar, the fixture are gonna be really complicated for Lazio, because Thursday there is Cluj. I know it's Europa League, but I think it's really important for Lazio to start with a win. Then there is Parma, that can be very dangerous, especially with Gervinho. And then Wednesday there's Inter, who maybe is not playing great football, but it's top of the league, won 3 matches. So we have to be really careful, Alistair, because things can go really bad. Or I'm getting too anxious, too concerned about this defeat.
I think we all probably are. In reality, the Lazio side we saw in the first 2 games of the season is closer to the real Lazio team than the one we saw yesterday, I think. And we shouldn't forget that those performances were very positive, were very promising, and that I think at home against a team like Parma, we should be doing all right. It's really just a question of how Inzaghi manages it now, though. It's the same question we've had already and discussed already at length about the rotation of the squad. But yeah, I mean, look, I think he has to have his strongest team out on Sunday against Parma, especially now after that result. But yeah, I mean, look, we are three weeks into the season. A win, draw, and a defeat isn't what we would have hoped for by any means. But we're so early in the season that there's plenty of time to make up the ground. And I don't think that we should let it kind of destroy any sort of positivity around the team. You know, if you think back to before this game on Sunday, Lazio are being discussed as one of the major top 4 contenders. One bad result doesn't change that. It does show us that this aspect of Lazio's fallibility hasn't changed. We are still capable of chucking these results out there. But does that make us any less likely to go on and beat Inter? I don't think it does. So, time will tell. But in the meantime, what I wanted to ask you guys about was Thursday night. I mean, where would you go from here? I mean, Jerry, I'll ask you first. Would you opt for the kind of full-scale turnover of the squads for a game like this? Or is it a case of getting some of those guys who perform poorly on Sunday maybe and restoring confidence? How would you go about it?
I think last season, we prioritized too much the Europa League and the Coppa Italia. I think this year we need to focus strictly on the actual Serie A. We have to focus on fourth place. If we accomplish anything beyond for Europa League, that's a bonus. We should be playing our bench for Europa League. I wouldn't go with a full strong lineup on Thursday. With Parma coming up and then Inter on Wednesday. If we can beat Parma on Sunday and get even a draw against Inter, that's a win to me. I think the focus has to be fourth, and if we do more with our bench players and for Europa League, I think that's a benefit for us. But I think we can't have Savage playing Thursday and then Sunday and then Wednesday, because by the time a quarter of the season's done, he's going to have injuries like last year. And then Luis Alberto's going to have injuries like last year. And then we're going to have Ciro Immobile be out periodically throughout the season, and we'll have to rely on Caicedo, and we'll have to rely on Correa up front because we don't have no depth to score. So I think if I'm Inzaghi, I would give other players a chance. Beresha hasn't played since last season. He had a good international break, scored 2 goals. I think I would go with Beresha to start in the midfield. I would probably bring Leva on with Parolo. I would give Johnny a chance on the wing. I would give Lulic a break because you can see he's not the same player like he used to be. In the back end, I like to see Bastos come in, or even Vavro. Vavro would be a nice start for this game, just to get some experience. This is a perfect game for Vavro to get his feet wet with the team, adjust to the 3-5-2, get used to Inzaghi, adjust. I wouldn't even start Immobile. I would give Immobile the game off. I would start maybe Caicedo up front with Correa. Something different that gives a different look to Lazio, but we don't overuse our best players, because then halfway through the season, we're going to go through the same problem we did last year and near the end of the season before, when we started getting injuries, and it doesn't help us for the season. And I feel that, a Coppa Italia is nice. We got a trophy. It got us back into Europa League. But it shouldn't be the goal anymore. We've accomplished 2 Coppa Italias in the last 7-8 years, but we still haven't seen a Champions League qualification spot. So that is the goal, I believe. And I think 4th spot is the easiest way into it, because Milan is I don't want to disrespect the team. I think they're a decent team, but compared to Lazio, I think Lazio has much more depth and quality on the field. Even Roma has a good midfield front forward, but their back end looks really weak still, and it showed yesterday when they gave up 2 goals in the second half, and it still doesn't look. If they didn't have a 4-goal lead, I don't think they don't hold that lead. If it's a 1 or 2-0 game into the second half, I bet you Roma ties it. So I think Lazio is still strong for a 4th spot. Even though they lost the game yesterday, I wouldn't put too much into that. I agree with you. It's only 3 games into the season. I wouldn't overreact. I guarantee you that Juventus, Napoli, Inter, they're going to run into the same situation where they're going to lose 1 game to somebody that we're going to be, oh, wow, they lost to Spal or something. It's going to happen to all teams this season. But the biggest thing that Inzaghi has to make sure this year is it doesn't happen 6-7 times. We have to make sure that we only lose once, twice to these teams, and that we lose to the top teams, that makes more sense, and that we take advantage of the competition, that we know that those points will help us to gain fourth spot.
I understand doing turnover in the Europa League, but then there's a risk. Lazio has a tough group. We're playing Cluj on Thursday, and it's a good team. If we rotate so much, there's a big risk that we lose 5-0, and it's not going to be helpful for the team because it's going to put more pressure to the players when they're going to play against Parma. So, and especially if you didn't start Correa and Milinkovic-Savic yesterday, I think they're going to start on Thursday, because otherwise, why didn't they play yesterday? This doesn't make sense. So, I agree that Lazio has to focus to get the Champions League spot. As Jerry was saying, we already won enough Coppa Italia. Now the goal should be the Champions League. But still, Europa League is something that you have to take care, and you cannot allow to lose badly in Europa League. And this is a tough group, so it's not going to be easy to rotate the players that much. The other thing is, everybody's saying Lazio is the favorite for the fourth spot. We said Lazio is better than Roma. Yeah, but we drew against Roma, and Roma was really struggling because it's the beginning of the season, new manager, etc. I don't think that in the next derby we'll face Roma in that situation. So not winning against Roma, it's bad for Lazio. Again, we lost against Spal. We all saying that Lazio is a better team. Roma is ahead of us. Milan won. The table doesn't look good anymore. So I like to see people optimistic, but at this point I would be really focusing on understand why Lazio make the same mistake all over again. I think this is really important to improve and to finally reach the fourth spot. Turnover, but Lazio and Inzaghi has to think to make the right call, because otherwise it's going to be a nightmare on Thursday. I don't know, guys, if you agree with me, Alistair.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all about finding the balance. The truth is that this isn't a deep enough squad to do a whole-scale turnover anyway, really. It's not like there's 11 players who just will be ready to step in. You could piece together a team, but you'd be giving a hell of a lot of players their debuts and so on. And for an away game in Romania against a team that are going to be very up for it, and sitting on top of the Romanian league, I think that you're playing a bit of a risky game that way. But yeah, I mean, I do just think we have to prioritise that. We have to use our key players a bit better. I know Acerbi wants to play every game. That's part of who he is. That's part of his identity as being the lion and the rest of it, and not missing a minute of football. But it's not his call. I mean, it's not up to him. So if Inzaghi thinks he needs to rest, then he should rest him. Same with Immobile, same with Lucas. These guys were used far too often last season. I don't think there's any need to be throwing them into all these group stage games. So yeah, I think it's really a case of managing how we rotate that squad. If you've got 4 or 5 starters in one Thursday, then make sure that the 4 or 5 starters you have in the following Thursday are different ones from the first time round. Injury dependent, obviously. But it is also, let's not forget, a big opportunity. That's what makes these games quite interesting. I wouldn't go as far as to say really interesting, but it does give players a chance to stake a claim for a starting spot and show that we do have more depth than perhaps we believe. I think Berisha is going to be a really interesting one. I think we're all quite excited to see what he can do now that he's actually finally fit again. Jerry mentioned the fact that he had a good international break. I think that he'll be ready to give it a go and kind of announce himself as a Lazio player after a bit of a nightmare first season. But yeah, the new signings as well. Adekanye, if he could get a shot, that'd be very interesting to see. So there's plenty to keep an eye out for in this match. But I just think that for me, the the Serie A games just have to take priority at every corner this season if we're gonna stand a chance of getting in that top four.
I hope that Vavro, Johnny, and Berisha will start on Thursday, even though I'm not 100% convinced. Johnny, what's your thought? Do you think that Inzaghi is going to start them, or they're simply going to come in the second half?
That's a good question. There's one player you mentioned a lot on your show that I would have liked yesterday to see, but he played in the Primavera, was Nicolo Armini. I think I'd like to see him play like against a team like Spal yesterday. Nicolo Armini would have been nice to watch, just to have a chance to see what he can do. I thought he looked okay in the little game time he had last year. He played against Bologna near the end of the season. He looked okay. But guys like that should be stepping in. I agree with Alistair. Like we gotta. I think the bench management has to be better. I would have preferred to see Correa and Savage start yesterday. I agree, as opposed to say this Thursday, because that either or they're coming off the bench and they're still playing. So to me, it makes no sense. Either you start them or you take them off. They're still in the game. So it would have made more sense to start both of them from the beginning. It would have given us maybe a better chance because they would have started from the beginning. The squad would have had a better look towards the whole thing. The flow would have been maybe easier because with Savage in the middle, it would have opened up the field maybe more. The ball movement would have been quicker. I just think that now that we didn't start them yesterday, you're right. It doesn't make any sense if we don't start them on Thursday. So now, if you don't start Correa and Savage, it makes no sense why we didn't start them on Sunday. You're right. But I think that Berisha should start this Thursday. It'd be nice to see what he can do because we didn't see him last year due to unfortunate injuries. So that would be a nice positive for Lazio because he was good with Salzburg and was supposed to have good intentions for the team last year, but it was unfortunate his game time wasn't as much as we had hoped. Yanni, I hope Yanni starts on Thursday. I think Lulic needs to have a break, but we can't afford to start all our starters. I like to see Immobile not be playing on Thursday. I know that Correa and Caicedo are very good up front together, as they shown last year. So that would be nice to see what they can do. Or even Adikani. If we can see Adikani come in, it'd be nice to see Hingis in game time and just adjust to the first team and see what he can provide as well. And he could be a depth option further into the season.
Yeah, I don't think Adekanye will start in Europa League, but maybe come in. It could be interesting to see. Alistair, before going to the answer some of the questions we receive, we are going to have to talk about fantasy football. So if you want to leave us, this is the right time.
Have you got the right league this time?
This time I got the right league, but it was better for you if I didn't, because things are getting worse for you.
It's another grim week.
100 Sword manager Ethan is first with 200 points. Congrats. We have Watch Night, Johnny Snow, 198. La Stella, Marcello Lippi, who's playing for us, so it's a great achievement for our league, 192. I'm number 9 with 153 points, but I'm a little bit in struggle because I had 3 players that got 0 points because I played Rabiot, Felipe, and Kier, who didn't play. So 0 point for me, but I'm still 8th, 153. Marco Van Bastos, it's only 15. And, even Rami is getting away. He's number 13 with Laziali. So, Alistair, you have to really pick up. Otherwise,
I say, it's all about drawing everyone into a false sense of security. It's tactical, purely tactical, all of this.
Anyway, we are 25, so guys, you still have time to join us, even because I think you just have to play and you will pass Alistair McKenzie's team with with no problem. I think it's just that. You just signed and you're already above him. So, guys, if you want to have fun of Alistair, maybe tweet him and say, hey, my team is better than yours, and have a little bit of fun with him on Twitter. Just join us on fantasyseria.com, and we tweeted already the code to join our league. That it's what's the name of our league, Alistair? Do you remember?
It's Lazio Lounge Community.
Lazio Lounge Community. Obviously ending at the end of the season, so it's free to join, and it's a little bit of fun for everybody. So, Jerry, obviously you're invited too, if you want to join and just pass Alistair like everybody is having. The only concern I have is my favorite name team is Guerino's Gottardi having a party. It's only number 23. Thorn, I don't know who you are. But 44 points for a team that has the name of Guerino Gottardi is not acceptable. Guerino Gottardi, it's one of the best player of Lazio. I mean, I always remember him with love. I really love Guerino Gottardi. So if you want to keep that name, you have to push and make more points. And Jerry, obviously, you are welcome to join us.
Thank you.
Alistair, we have a lot of questions today. Surprisingly, because Lazio didn't go very well. That's not a big surprise. When things go bad, we are full of questions. Let me get some of them, because here on Twitter, Matt Gandini, notable yesterday was lack of urgency and drop in pressing in the second half. Question 1, why do we give away the initiative like that against inferior opponents, and especially in the second half? Rather than tactical of starting lineup, this seems like mental issue, and unfortunately not a new one. Alistair?
Well, yeah, I think it is a mental issue. I mean, without repeating everything I already said earlier on, I think that this is something that Inzaghi needs to sort and that he's culpable for, because he needs to keep this squad mentally charged up to make sure they're focused on the target, and to make sure they don't take their foot off the gas, essentially. I think yesterday there was this kind of presumptuousness that once they were in front, they were going to see out the result, given the way that Lazio have started the season and the fact that Spal were yet to pick up a point. It baffles me that this team haven't learnt the lesson yet, that it isn't that easy in Serie A to pick up these points away from home in these games against smaller teams, because it's happening time and again. So yeah, for me to answer that question, yeah, it is a mental issue, and it's something that Inzaghi alone is culpable of sorting out, because the players have this problem, but it's up to the coach to instill the right attitude in them in the way that, like I mentioned earlier, Antonio Conte is managing to do it into.
Jerry, this is a new question. We never received this question, so you're going to ask her. You're going to reply from Riber. Radu and Lulic, are they good enough if we want to give a decent fight for the fourth spot? Never received this question. So, Jerry, what do you think about it?
I think Radu still is good enough to compete for the fourth spot. Yesterday, yeah, he got a yellow card taking down the player. Like he was beat because he played too high up. But I still think that overall, he still gives that fight on the left side. He still works hard. He gives 100% effort. I don't think he's slowing down as compared to Lulic. I think Lulic this time is more. He can't go past 60 minutes, like you were saying. His speed starts to slow down. His ability to beat people one-on-one is not like it used to be. He gives up the ball way too much. His decision-making is not as strong as he used to. I find that he's not strong on the ball. His decision-making is one of his weak areas, and that what it does is that we just turn the ball over when we get into the corner, and it doesn't help our offense, and it just counterattacks. So I think that Lulic should be playing less this season and not a whole full season, because we're going to burn him out by the mid-calendar, and it's not going to help Lazio as well. I think Yanni needs to be given time. I think another player that I would like to see, I don't know if he's eligible to play or what, and I know he can't play in the Europa League, was Dermisi. I think Dermisi should have been given maybe some time with Lazio as well this year. Especially that if you want to loan him out, we should be showcasing what he can offer to the club. So I think Dermisi, if you're not going to give Yanni full time, at least try Dermisi as well. There's another option we can use on the wing. I know that he had that bad game against Milan last year, but you can't fault a player that plays one game and then doesn't play for 10 and then plays one and then doesn't play for 10 again. You're not going to get the feel for the team. You're not going to get the rhythm for the team. You're not going to get that feel. It doesn't help him. So I think he should be getting some game time, if anything, as well with Yanni. I know Yanni will get ahead because we just bought him, but there's two options that we can use throughout the season. Even for Coppa Italia, instead of using our best players like we did last year, we should use our other options and allowing Lulic to at least to rest himself and not overplay himself. But with Radu, I think Radu is a vital part to the back end, as he's shown throughout his 11 years with the team. So I still think he still has it. His speed may not be as good as it used to be, but his positioning is very good though still.
Durmisi, unfortunately, is always injured. Again, he's not training with the team because he's still recovering from another injury. He's in the list to play for Serie A, but obviously he's not in the Europa League. But he's not fit. He wasn't in the bench yesterday as well because still he didn't recover from an injury. Rami Algendi, as expected, Europa League already cost us 3 points in the league because of rotation. And it didn't even start yet. What should we do now? Focus on the Europa League and play our best and just throw it away, or play our best in the league and not rotate? It's a tough situation. Alistair, your thought about that?
Yeah, well, I think we've kind of already talked a bit about that. For me, it's Serie A. Serie A has to take priority this season if we want top four. I don't think there's enough quality and depth to...
But do you think it's too late?
Sorry, too late for top four, do you mean?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I mean, look, we're 3 weeks into a long season. Nobody's made a perfect start. And, I think it's quite possible for this team to bounce back. Who knows? In a month's time, we might say that this result has come at the right time because it's given the team the kick up the arse it needs to actually sort itself out mentally, and maybe Inzaghi can start addressing this issue and taking it more seriously rather than just batting it off and saying, "Oh, lessons will be learned." I don't know. I think that this is a problem, and it is going to have to be a problem that we kind of get. If we're going to get the top four this season, I think we're going to have to admit that we're going to have to get the top four despite this issue. I can't see it being fixed overnight, but I still think there's enough about this squad to get there, yeah.
Okay, I like your confidence. I mean, it helped me a little bit, even me, because I'm a little bit depressed after the performance. Not really the performance, it's how the players react. I would have been reacting like a Sherby, trying to kill everybody near me. Instead, watching the other players like giving up, it's still something I cannot accept from a team like Lazio that is fighting for the fourth spot. Jerry, thanks for joining us. We have to wrap it up. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, and we hope to have you again.
Yes, I look forward to coming back in the near future. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks, Jerry. And guys, remember, as usual, you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. If you like the show and want to support us, there is a Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts from just $2 a month. And with the other subscription, you can get a free video every week from me and Alistair talking, obviously, about Lazio. Before leaving, guys, how will Cluj Lazio finish? Just to wrap it up, starting from Jerry.
I think Lazio will rebound. They'll come up with a strong performance, and they'll come out with a 2-1 win.
I got burned for being too confident last week, so I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, I was going with a draw 1-1 though. So we're going to see what happened. Again, Alistair, Jerry, thanks for joining me. And we're going to talk about, again, Monday to wrap it up. The Europa League match and Parma-Lazio, a very, very important match for this team. It's going to be really important to see if the team reacts after this bad defeat against Spal. Again, Laziali all over the world, thank you very much for joining me, and we're going to talk again next Monday. Please, if you like the show, rate and review on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify, on Spreaker. Again, rate and review our show. We really appreciate your feedback. Thank you again, guys. Good night.